you ever get that feeling that today's problems are just really tangled?
Oh, definitely.
Like you pull one thread and suddenly a whole bunch of others just get snagged?
Yeah, exactly. And, well, that's really where systems thinking comes into play.
Right. So it's not about zeroing in on just one little piece.
Not at all. It's about seeing the whole web, the bigger picture. It's a shift, really.
A shift from focusing on just the isolated parts?
To understanding the relationships between those parts, the patterns that kind of emerge, the way actions can ripple outwards. Think holistic problem solving.
Instead of just breaking things down into smaller and smaller bits.
Exactly. That traditional reductionist approach often misses the connections.
Okay, so our mission today for this deep dive is to sort of cut through some of that complexity.
Yeah, let's grab the core ideas.
And maybe some useful tools, things that make systems thinking actually, work for you. It sounds like it starts with how you see things.
It really does. It begins with how you think. Imagine a photographer. They don't just stick with one lens, right? They zoom in super tight for the detail, but then they pull way back, to frame the entire landscape.
Yeah.
That's a really key mindset here.
Moving between different levels.
Zooming in and zooming out, seeing the detail in the whole system.
Got it. Seeing the close-up, A&D, the wide shot. And it's not just about the scale, is it? It sounds like it's also about where you're standing, metaphorically speaking.
Precisely. Like that photographer walking around the subject to get different angles. You need to actively try out different viewpoints on a problem. Because what looks like one thing from over here
can look totally different from another angle. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a crucial third piece to this mindset.
Which is?
Being aware of your own biases, your own lens, the one shaped by your experiences, your assumptions.
Okay. So recognizing how I might be filtering things.
Exactly. Asking yourself those kind of reflective questions like, okay, what am I assuming here? Or how might my perspective be coloring this? It's vital.
Right. Okay, so we're shifting how we look at things, zooming, changing perspective, checking our own lens. Now, how do we, practically do that? Let's dive into some tools.
Sounds good.
First one that comes up is reframing questions. Seems simple.
It seems simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It's amazing how just tweaking the way you phrase a question can unlock completely new ways to approach something.
How so?
Well, Deirdre Sermonaro put it nicely. She said, reframing is about changing how we look at a problem to expand the space of possible solutions.
Expand the space. Okay, I like that.
It just opens up avenues you might not have even seen before.
That clicks. So maybe instead of asking, how do we reduce errors, we could ask, how can we make this whole process more robust and less prone to errors in the first place?
Exactly. It shifts the entire angle of attack.
Okay, cool. What's next? Systems mapping. That sounds visual, like drawing connections.
That's basically it. Yeah. It's a visual way to map out all those interdependencies, those relationships we've been talking about.
So you draw boxes and arrows, that kind of thing.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, the real power isn't necessarily the finished map you hang on the wall.
Ooh.
It's the learning that happens while you're creating it. As you actively think through all those links, those influences, how A affects B, which then loops back to affect A.
Yeah.
That's where the insight comes from.
I get that. So the act of mapping itself forces you to really consider how everything interacts.
Precisely.
Okay. And then there's the iceberg model. This one sounds intriguing. We're not talking about actual icebergs, are we?
No, not literal ones.
Okay.
But the metaphor is useful. Think of an iceberg, right? Only a small tip is visible above the water.
Okay, yeah. Most of it's hidden underneath.
Exactly. So the iceberg model, Shoka Baba explained this well. It helps us look beyond the obvious events. That's the tip of the iceberg, the things we see happening day to day.
The immediate problems or symptoms.
Right. And it pushes us to look deeper. Below the events are the patterns, things we've seen happen repeatedly over time.
Okay, so not just one complaint, but a pattern of complaints.
And below the patterns are the systemic structures, the processes, the rules, the ways things are organized that cause those patterns.
The underlying system design.
Yes. And even deeper, right at the base of the iceberg, are the mental models, the deeply held beliefs, assumptions, and values that shape the structures.
Wow. So if there's a lack of trees in certain neighborhoods, the event is no trees. The pattern is this happening consistently over years. The structure might be city planning policies or unequal resource allocation.
And the mental model could be underlying beliefs about who deserves green spaces, or maybe just a lack of awareness about the benefits. It helps you dig down to root causes.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a way to avoid just reacting to surface level stuff.
Exactly. And you see this thinking applied everywhere. Cheryl Kababa on the UX podcast, she talked about how even if you're designing, say, a tiny button, you still need to think about the entire user journey, the context, the broader ecosystem that button lives in. It's all connected.
It's never just a button.
Right. And it's not just digital stuff either. There was a great example from Nick Sisko on the Athlete Development Show.
Oh, yeah. About sports.
At Sydney Football Club, they realized developing successful players wasn't just about drills on the field.
There's more to it.
Much more. They started looking at the whole system. How involved were the schools? Was the home environment like? Were they creating a genuinely safe and supportive culture?
So zooming out from just the athlete to their entire world.
Exactly. And that holistic systems view apparently made a huge difference in their success.
That's fascinating, focusing on the whole system, not just one part.
It applies in business, too.
Yeah.
Pat St. Laurent was on the Expeditors podcast talking about supply chains, super complex systems, right?
Definitely.
And the point was optimizing how all the different parts interact. The suppliers, the logistics, the warehouses, the retailers is way more important than just making one single part hyper-efficient in isolation.
Because optimizing one part might actually mess things up downstream?
Precisely. You get these silos where each department optimizes for itself, but the overall system performance suffers. It's a classic problem.
Seeing the bigger picture again, it seems to be the core theme.
It really is. Even the folks at Personality Hacker, they talk about how the events we experience in life, often they aren't just simple cause and effect. They're more like emergent properties of much deeper interacting systems within us or around us.
So things bubble up from the system rather than just A caused B.
Kind of, yeah. It challenges that linear thinking. So when you step back, adopting this systems thinking lens, you start to see some real benefits emerge.
Like what?
Well, obviously, better problem solving because you're getting closer to root causes, not just fighting fires.
Makes sense.
Also, more effective strategic planning because you can better anticipate the ripple effects, the wider consequences of decisions.
Seeing ahead more clearly.
Yeah, and greater adaptability. When you understand the system, you can adjust more effectively when things inevitably change. And ultimately, hopefully, more sustainable solutions that actually last.
Because they address the underlying structure, not just the symptoms.
Exactly.
Okay. So maybe for you listening, here's a thought to chew on. Think about a really complex challenge or problem you're facing right now, maybe at work, maybe in your community, maybe even personally. Instead of just focusing on the immediate frustration, the event, try to consciously zoom out. Ask yourself, what are all the different pieces involved here? Who are the players? What are the rules, spoken or unspoken?
How might they be influencing each other? Are there patterns you've noticed over time?
Yeah. What could be the underlying structures or even the beliefs holding this situation in place? It's really about seeing that bigger web of connections.
Because often, that's where the real leverage points, the most valuable insights, are hiding, just beneath the surface.